Mewgenics Inbreeding explained, and not the hand-waving version. Every cat in your house carries an inbreeding coefficient, a single value between 0 and 1, calculated from its ancestry. The game doesn't put it on the character sheet in big letters, but it's doing real work in the background every time 2 of your cats spend a night in the same room. This is the number behind the run where your bloodline looked incredible on paper, and then produced 3 kittens in a row that came out broken. The community wiki has pulled the relevant formulas out of the game, and once you have seen them, the pattern in your own run stops looking like bad luck, and starts looking like arithmetic you agreed to. Today we go through what raises that coefficient, exactly what it costs you, and the 1 free reset the game hands you every single run. The coefficient goes up when you breed cats that are closely related, and the game measures that with a relatedness closeness value. Breeding 2 cats whose closeness is 4 or lower is what pushes the number upward. That sounds abstract until you translate it into how people actually play. The classic pattern is finding 1 cat with a stat line you love, and then breeding it back into its own descendants to keep that line going. That's parent-to-child breeding, and it's the fastest possible way to climb. The documented figure is that after 9 successive parent-to-child pairings, the resulting kitten is guaranteed to come out extremely inbred, and by 12 you're above 90%. 9 generations sounds like a lot until you remember how many nights the long run covers, and how tempting it's to keep going back to the 1 cat that works. Here is where the numbers get useful. The birth defect disorder chance is 0.02 plus 0.4 times however far the coefficient sits above 0.2. Work that through and 2 things fall out. First, below a coefficient of 0.2, you're paying a flat 2%, which is close enough to free that you should stop worrying about it. Second, the formula caps out at 42% when the coefficient reaches 1. 42% is brutal, but notice it isn't 100. Even a maximally inbred pairing produces a clean kitten, more often than not, which is exactly why the mechanic is so good at fooling you. You get away with it, and you get away with it, and then you don't, and it feels random rather than like the bill arriving. Disorders are only half of it. There's a separate check for defective body parts, and it starts far earlier than the disorder penalty does. That roll comes into play once the coefficient passes 0.05, triggering when a random roll beats the coefficient multiplied by 1.5. 0.05 is a much lower bar than 0.2, so there's a band in the middle where your disorder risk is still essentially the flat 2%, and you feel completely safe, while the body part roll is already quietly switched on. And at the very top, above 0.9, defect body parts get applied in 2 passes rather than 1, which in practice writes the kitten off entirely. That's the difference between a cat with a quirk and a cat that was never going to be usable. Avoiding defects only matters if the kittens are inheriting the stats you wanted, and that's Stimulation's job. Only base stats passed down. Gear, class collars, buffs, injuries, and status effects are all ignored. So the cat you have built up over a run isn't the cat that breeds. High stimulation raises the chance a kitten takes the better of its 2 parents' values for each stat. The number worth memorizing is that even at stimulation 100, that's roughly a 2 in 3 chance per stat. 7 stats all landing on the better side at once works out at about 6%. So a perfect kitten is roughly a 1 in 17 event under ideal conditions, not a thing you plan around. Build the room and breed volume. Which brings us back to that hidden number, and the way out of it. Stray cats brought in from the world always have an inbreeding coefficient of exactly 0. Not low, not close to 0, exactly 0. That makes every stray a genetic reset you can drop into a line that has drifted too far, and it's the single cheapest fix available to you. Pair a stray into a bloodline that has climbed, and you pull the coefficient of the offspring back down instead of compounding it. Remember also that mutations are a separate system, granting +2 to one stat and -1 to another, and that they're how anything gets above a base 7 at all. So here is a question worth arguing about in the comments. How many generations do you actually run a bloodline before you